Hi guys, welcome to the Artist Server. Today I want to introduce you guys to a couple of ThinkPad keyboards that I think are great for the home lab environment. I was using one of these keyboards in my last video and I noticed some people commented about it, so I thought I should share with you guys what I like about these keyboards. To start, you should know that I've been a big fan of ThinkPad laptops for the last 25 or so years. I got my first ThinkPad through my job back when I was a security consultant and have been hooked ever since. I have tried other laptops since then, such as Dells and MacBooks, but none of them were really compelling enough to make me stray away from ThinkPads. I've used several other ThinkPads over the years from various jobs, but even for my personal use, I have always bought ThinkPads. Even now, I personally own two ThinkPads, and each of my kids have a ThinkPad as well. If my cats needed a laptop, yes, they would get ThinkPads too. With that said, this video is not sponsored by Lenovo, and everything you see here today was bought by me simply because I found these keyboards to be really useful. So, if you're a big fan of ThinkPad laptops, and you appreciate the feel of the ThinkPad keyboards, I think you're really going to love these keyboards. There are two very similar models here, and I'm going to share with you what I love about them, especially for the home lab environment. Now, before we get into it, please smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm so more people can benefit from this video. Also, if you're new to this channel and you have or want to set up a home lab server, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my awesome tips to help you build your home lab setups. Alright, first we have the Lenovo ThinkPad wired USB keyboard with track point. This keyboard is part number 0B47190 and retails for about $60. On the other side, we have a very similar looking keyboard, but this is the Lenovo ThinkPad TrackPoint Keyboard 2 with part number 4Y40X9493. This one is a wireless keyboard and retails for about $100. It has its own 2.4 gigahertz dongle that can be stored away up here when not in use, but it can also connect via Bluetooth. That is a pretty handy feature we'll elaborate on a little later on. Both of these keyboards are based on the world-renowned ThinkPad keyboard. For those of you who know, you know. If you don't, you should try them out at a store or find a buddy with a ThinkPad from the last 10 years or so and try it out. I'm not saying this is for everybody, so you should try it out for yourself. I personally can type on these keys for hours and hours. If I'm going to sit down and write a few thousand lines of code, this is the keyboard I want to be using. Now, this red dot right here in the middle is the track point, also a staple of all ThinkPads. If you don't know, this is a pointer control device, and the three buttons down here are basically your left, right, and middle click buttons. I've been using track points since my very first ThinkPad and absolutely love it. I love it because it allows me to use the pointer without moving my fingers away from my touch typing positions. Touchpads usually require you to move your fingers away from your typing position. If you're a Linux guy like me where you use the shell or CLI a lot, you really appreciate the ability to move your cursor and quickly resume typing your commands. Both of these keyboards look almost identical. However, there are some subtle differences, besides one being a wired USB keyboard and the other being a wireless. If you look closely at the function key row here, you'll notice the function keys are evenly distributed on the wired version, while on the wireless version, you'll see that they're grouped in sets of 4. To me, this difference is inconsequential, but I know some traditionalists like to see the function keys grouped like that as they are typically on a full-size keyboard. Additionally, the track point buttons on the wired keyboard are more tactile, while the wireless one has slimmer buttons that don't move as far when you click on them. I think, the buttons on the wired version, but the other design doesn't really bother me too much and functions just as well. The wired version is also a bit lighter, weighing in at 440 grams. The wireless version is heavier, probably because of the built-in battery, and weighs in at 516 grams. The extra weight is noticeable on the wireless version, but not in an annoying way. In fact, it makes it feel more substantial and subjectively feels like a higher quality product. The lighter version the lighter wired version just feels more plasticky, even though both are made of the same plastics. Now, about that battery, on a full charge, Lenovo says it will run for 2 months without charging. I have used this wireless version for over 2 years now, but I also only use it sparingly around the lab on various machines that I'm testing or setting up. I always turn the keyboard off with the on-off switch right here, especially when it's not in use. So I don't know how true the 2-month claim is, but with the way that I've been using it for the last 2 years or so, I think I've only charged it at maybe 3 times. So it does last a very long time. So why do I love these keyboards for the homelab environment? Well, as I already mentioned, if you're typing commands on the shell of your server, these keys are just wonderful. But also look at the compact size of these keyboards. They can easily fit on a small shelf in your rack, or can easily be stored away when not in use. They just don't get in the way. But when you need a keyboard, they are absolute pleasure to use. And that track point I mentioned earlier is wonderful to use as well, but this also means you don't need an extra mouse device if you're in a graphical environment. That's one less thing you need and one less USB port. If your server USB ports are mostly occupied, having one less USB dongle or cable to plug in really helps. Now, if you have multiple servers, with the wired keyboard, you'd have to unplug and plug the keyboard into the server you want to interact with. And that's not a big deal, but with the wireless keyboard, remember I said that it has its own 2.4 gigahertz dongle as well as Bluetooth? So if you have a server that has built-in Bluetooth, say you built it with an old desktop PC motherboard that already has Bluetooth, you can connect this keyboard to that machine via Bluetooth and put the dongle in another machine. So there's a switch up here that allows you to select whether to use the dongle or Bluetooth. And this effectively allows you to switch between 2 machines without having to unplug anything. So that's kind of a cool feature available with this wireless version. With that said, with more static setups, I do prefer the wired version just because it's wired. And you know that's pretty reliable. With wireless version, well, you know Bluetooth isn't always reliable and the dongle can be lost. On top of that, the battery on the wireless version can run out on you at the worst times. If your internet connection is down, your kids can't get their homework done, your wife can't stream her favorite show, and you're trying to get on your firewall router directly at the console to troubleshoot the problem, you just don't need another obstacle in your way. And finally, for a keyboard that you might not constantly use, the wired version is substantially cheaper. But I said that was for more static setups. If part of your home lab is more dynamic and not part of the core infrastructure, you might change things around a lot, experimenting with technologies and doing a variety of other things. In a dynamic environment, I think the wireless version is a great choice, especially being able to connect to 2 systems. And if it is a keyboard you might actually use more frequently, moving around with it, I think the higher cost of the wireless version can be justified. Now, going back to the wired version, I do want to mention one last thing. The USB connector on the wired version up here is a micro USB plug, which is known to be quite fragile. This is not suitable if you're going to be plugging and unplugging that micro USB frequently. It's likely to become unreliable and if repeatedly used like that. So if you get the wired version, I recommend you also get a magnetic USB cable for the micro USB connection. Let me show you as I have one right here. So this is a magnetic USB adapter that goes to a micro USB. And over here I have the cable to this. So this is just the other side that connects to it magnetically. And you can see it just kind of connects just like that. And so you'll also notice that I got this as a right angle connection here. And that's because I wanted to reduce the profile of potentially something knocking it from the side. And so if you ever accidentally yank on this cable, it just comes right off without potentially damaging that micro USB port. So if you are going to get the wired version, I do recommend that you get this type of magnetic micro USB cable adapter, just to kind of preserve that micro USB connector a little bit longer, so you have long-term reliability with this keyboard. All right, guys, that's it for this video. Let me know what you think about these keyboards down in the comments below. Which one would you prefer, and what keyboard do you use currently for your home lab? If you found this video helpful, please give it a like, and if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing for more content like this. Also, if you want to support my channel, go check out my eBay store. I have the largest selection of pre-flashed IT mode HBA SAS controllers, ready for your ZFS, TrueNAS, or Unraid server builds. Go check out the link down in the video description below. Also, if you're interested in picking up one of these keyboards, I'll also leave links to help you find them on eBay down in the description below. All right, guys, thank you for watching and have a great day. Bye-bye.